Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Bridge again. We have a new guest today, Araceli. I think I might have pronounced that close enough, maybe. But welcome to the show. And I'll pass over to Casper, who will probably introduce you again and get it more correct, maybe.
I doubt that. I think the time it will be correct is when Araceli says it herself. But anyway, welcome everybody. Hi. Really glad to have Araceli with us today. It's our first conversation, which is always very exciting and slightly nerve-wracking for me, and I'm sure for Gary. Araceli, be calm, enjoy yourself, and begin by, if you wouldn't mind, giving us a little bit of background to yourself, where you are in the world, and anything else you want to say, and then we'll broaden the discussion.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Casper, for inviting me today here.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be in Quantum Bridge. I'm here to answer your questions, so please don't be harming me with that. So I'm Araceli Venegas-Gomez. I'm from Spain. I have been in several countries around the world during my life and my career, and I can tell you more about that. But now my title is CEO and founder of QURECA, Quantum Resources and Careers.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, lovely. Right, Gary, have you got anything immediate that you want to ask or say? Otherwise, I'll start as usual.
He's good at rabbiting on, so
yeah.
He likes it. It's his forte, I think.
You want me to go for it, or have you got something in mind?
You can go for it, man. It's all right.
Okay, good. Araceli, I believe from our first brief conversation off camera that you've been and you've traveled to many places, but actually also lived in other areas. So I'd love to just hear about maybe the latter part of your childhood, anything to do with your education, what you liked about it and what you didn't maybe, and then where you've been in the world and what are those different changes that have seen you end up in a very interesting area, an area that has a lot of resonance for us. So you can start wherever you like, but I'd just love to hear more about your life and the way that you've moved around and how you've got to where you are now.
Sure. So I'm from Extremadura. The city is called Badajoz. It's in the southwest, a little bit central of Spain. But the explanation that I always give, if you think about Lisbon in Portugal, and then you go straight to Spain, like straight line, it's at the border with Portugal. That's where Extremadura is. So I'm from there. I moved to Madrid to study aerospace engineering. Long story, but somebody told me that was a very difficult degree, and I said, well, then I go for that. I literally had no idea about what engineering meant at all. I didn't know any engineer, but yeah, that was the first adventure. So I moved to Madrid, and then the plan was like, I studied my degree. You'd have this kind of a final thesis during your degree, and then you get a job. That's what everybody thinks that is life, right? Is the career is you study and then you get a job. So being aerospace engineering, normally what you think is what is the maximum thing that you can do? Being in Europe, you work for Airbus because they do all the planes, right? And everything that is has to do with aerospace is mainly Airbus in Europe. So I ended up at the end of my degree, during my studies, doing an internship in Airbus in Spain. And I was there and I was thinking, well, I could do my final thesis here and then I get a job. And a very clever, smart woman that said, why are you going to do that? You could do so many other things. And I'm like what? She said, why don't you apply for Erasmus for your final thesis? And then you get an international experience. She was really smart. So I said, well, okay, I will check. And I go to the applications and it was the last day to apply for Erasmus. I didn't know. It's like I had to do it really fast. Where do I apply? And I ended up going for Erasmus to the north of Belgium. They speak Dutch, Flemish. So yeah. So basically I spoke English because the other language was very hard to learn.
Yeah.
So I was there and it was crazy because it was kind of the beginning of everything that happened in my life, right? All my international experience started there. I thought that I was going to stay in Spain, that I was going to be kind of, that's the career, but it wasn't. So I ended up in Belgium, and then I got an internship to study to do experimental physics in Austria. Nothing related, but I got it and it was really interesting. I love it so much that I wanted to stay there, but they didn't have money to hire me. So I went to the UK and to the US to study English. There were some internships to do that. And then I was teaching. I came back to Spain. I was teaching for a while, like, this kind of in the evenings for people that need support and things like that. And then I started to apply for jobs. And because I was in Austria and I tried to learn German and it was so hard, I said, I need to stick to that. I need to learn German. So I started to learn German while I was in Spain. And then I started to apply for jobs. And I got it was another big decision at that time. I could go to Germany and work for Airbus. That was a permanent contract. Or I could get a 2 years position at the European Space Agency in Netherlands. When it's the beginning of your career, everything that is like security is like, that's probably what I should take, right? So I moved to Germany. And that's kind of all the jumping until I started my professional career.
And just to say, Araceli, did you move to Germany? Is this all sort of completely on your own? Do you not feel the need for support networks? Because one, you're stepping outside a comfort zone in terms of language, right? You're also stepping outside a comfort zone because it's a brand new career or new job and so on. Do these things not faze you at all?
No, I love it. It was like, I love challenges. So it was like another thing. Let's do it. And to be honest, there was a lot of support in terms of there was money. Any of this internship, it was paid. So it's not like I was going and I had to work in the evening to survive. I had that financial support from the government, which I don't know if it's nowadays the same case, to be honest, but I was lucky in that case. But yeah, I didn't have any fear. I was relentless, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So
can you give me some of this?
Gary could do that.
Yeah.
But what about just emotionally? I understand the thing about financially, and I get the sense also, obviously, that you can make yourself comfortable in almost any scenario. But did you feel homesick at all at any point?
That's a very good question. I really love this interview because everybody's always jumping into quantum, and now I'm reviewing these things that are there. So thanks for this.
We're pulling you back. We're pulling you back.
Yeah, that's really nice. So at the beginning, I think the big jump was to leave my family when I was 18 years old, right? When I went to Madrid. That was the big thing. But once I started to be on my own, to be alone, you learn to live with that, and then it's just you keep going. So being in another country was, for me, I think, a smaller jump than leaving home when I moved to university, to be honest. Yeah. And then it's that kind of you continue with that. It's just like, this is life. When you are away, or when you are in whatever where you live, you have that group of people that are in a very similar situation, and you understand each other, right? Because they are all experts like you. So if they find some Spanish products, we all tell each other and things like that. To be honest, I met a lot of people that they were continuously missing Spain, like they were not enjoying the experience of being abroad. I didn't have that issue, but it was more when I was coming back to Spain, and I was looking at my family and my friends. It's like things are not moving here. Like, I have done so many other things in the meantime, but it's like I go back and they are in the same point as they were before. Yeah. But now, and that was some years ago, but now when I do the same, I'm jumping a lot of years forward, but now I see the difference. Now you look at people and it's like, wow, a lot of years have passed. And I didn't realize that all this time was passing because I was so busy doing all these other things, and that I was not realizing about that. So it's a mix. It's this mix of feelings, like you feel guilty for being abroad, but it's like you need to be happy because you have that kind of opportunity. You are living so many other things. I think only people that have been in the same situation really understand. So it's very, very hard for me, it was really hard to come back home and try to explain some things. It's like you put, no, I'm gonna be honest here. It's like you put like a mask when you are back home, and some things you're not 100% yourself anymore, because there are some things that the people that know you from before, they will be like, well, that's too much for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. Can I just, jumping back even further, just for a moment, we don't have to dwell on this, but I'm just really interested in at school. So I take it that things just came really easy to you, and that you had a vision of the sorts of things you might want to do. And you were fortunate enough to be one of those people where you sort of sailed through into that. But that's a massive assumption I'm making there. I'd love to hear whether or not there actually, you did have difficulties, or there were obstacles and hurdles you had to overcome.
That's a very good question. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that I love to do, from one of the things that we do at QURECA is career advice, because so many people don't know what, to be honest, I think 90% of people, either they don't know what to do with their lives, or they are doing something that is not what they want to do, which is really, really sad. When I had to choose my degree, it's lack of information, which it shouldn't happen now, because you have literally all information available, but they just don't know where to find it, which is kind of funny. But it was like, I applied to many different things. I knew that I like science, but that kind of big decision, you don't know if it's going to be the right or the wrong one. Then I went into this because, as I told you, somebody told me that it was going to be very hard. And when I look at the syllabus, it's like, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe I can become an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut, but there is a lot of misinformation, but you just try. And then you are becoming more aware about who you are and what you like to do. And then you shape that career. And this is what I tell people and students over and over again. It's about doing those small decisions. It's not about what you want to do in 20 years. It's going to be really hard. And I think both of you told me that you have changed careers. And
Absolutely.
so you know that. But if you're able to say, that's my next goal, let's go there, at least you have that kind of ambition, that kind of motivation to keep going and move towards that. And trying to identify that was really hard. And the proof is that I moved careers.
Yeah, of course. And all the time that this was going on, so in those earlier years, were you setting short-term goals and then achieving them and getting that sense of, well, I've achieved that and it's all going towards something else? Or were you more flowing with sort of just everything for you was just coming one after another, but not necessarily hugely planned out? Are you very much meticulous in what the next steps are, or do you allow the universe to carry you through a bit more?
Good question. All this, when I said that I was in different countries after my degree, the aerospace engineering degree, I think they were coming. I was just open to any kind of opportunity. Yeah. So they were coming, and I was just like, oh, there's an opportunity to go to US. Let's go. Then when I was in Germany, I spent 6 years working for Airbus at different positions. So that was really a period where, when I wanted to study, it was a decision. I want to study in my free time, because a full-time job is not enough, apparently. So yeah, I think probably with age you kind of become more decisive on what is really what you want to do. Yeah. But taking those opportunities, and I tell students to do that. Sometimes it's like, when people say, should I do a PhD or should I go to industry, I say, apply to both. And yeah, it's like, you don't really need to stick to one decision. This is how I see it.
One other thing, maybe Gary will have some observations before we get on to what you're doing now, which of course I'm keen to, but it's great to give that bit of background story as well. So while you're doing all of these things, and all of these things are coming to you, and then you actually, in some cases, are spending quite some time in some of those vocations, do you have that ability, or is it now part of you, or was it then to, if you did find yourself in something that looked like a bit of a dead end, or it didn't really feel right to you, do you pull the trigger quickly and get out and move on? Or have you had experiences where you've stayed slightly too long, do you think?
I remember one situation when I was starting to feel like I knew the way that how my future could look like if I stay at Airbus, which was really bright, to be honest. I knew that I could just go into the management, have more and more leadership, like go up into the ladder. But was that what I wanted? And I was starting to, like, should I do this? Should I do that? And I remember that to have a session with the boss of my boss of the boss of my boss. So quite level high, but I had very good relationship. And this guy was taking, we were having a chat. He took the whiteboard and he said, let's just think, what if I ask you what Araceli wants? What is it? And I was really fed up with the weather. And I'm like, well, I miss the nice weather. So we started like that, and he made a list of things, and he said, these are your goals at the end. So just try to go towards something that it puts all these together, which could feel stupid, but he spent the time, and it was really, really helpful to have that visualization of that, because of course you have that end. I started a degree that I spent a lot of time in my free time studying when I was working. And should I do this? Should I just stop it? A lot of people that I know actually did that. And no, I want to continue I want to demonstrate that I can finish. So you just keep going. But of course, there are a lot of up and downs and times where you feel like super overwhelmed and wondering why are you doing this? And then the big question came to me when I changed my career from industry to academia. Am I doing the right thing? Because it was the middle of the recession then, when a lot of people were coming to Germany looking for jobs, and everybody was like, oh, you need to find a job. I was gonna quit my very successful career in Airbus to go and study quantum physics. So I was really like, even now when I think about, I was like, am I crazy? But I really got the support of my family, friends, and everyone again, and that was really helpful to make that decision.
That's what I was wondering, is your how your parents do it. It's like, oh, she's off again, or she's doing,
Oh yeah, it's like another thing. It's like, so far has been working well, so we believe in you.
That's it, yeah. And you're back in Spain now, though, aren't you?
Yeah, after spending 7 years in Scotland, after I moved from Germany to Scotland from industry to academia. Last year, we decided that we wanted actual sun. Yes. and we ended up in the north of Spain, in the Mediterranean Sea. It was not planned at all. I'm not from here, as I told you, but why not?
Yeah.
And that was a career move, was it, as well? Or that was based on, we'd like to be in a warmer climate and sort of back home?
Yeah. Shall I tell you first the jump between industry and academia?
Yeah.
Because I think you would love this story.
Okay.
So as I told you, I was studying in my free time, and I really loved that too much, so much that I was taking holidays to go to events about quantum physics and events about. So I was like, on the free time that I got from the free time of studying and working full time, I was either going to concerts or going to science conferences. And I was really like, okay, I love this too much, but it's like I don't have time anymore to really enjoy it and, relax. But maybe I didn't need to, but anyway. So I actually went to Mexico, and on the way back from Mexico, I had to spend some money at the airport. I said, I'm gonna buy a book. It's a long trip. It's a book in Spanish. Why not? So I bought a book that is called "Do What You Want, and the Money Will Follow." That book was everything, because it was like stories of people that were quite successful. I don't know, lawyers, doctors, whatever, who were doing something that it was not really what they felt that it was fulfilling for their lives. And they just made that decision to say, I quit. I'm going to try to do whatever makes me happy, like being a farm or become a coach. I don't know. Things that at the very beginning, it didn't bring any money to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, there were people that we are saying they were successful, so they could make that move. But for me, that was really like, it was an eye opener. And I said, why don't I try? I can just say, I want to try and really learn more about quantum physics. That is what I enjoy now. And let's see, I can always come back to Airbus. If I went to the office, I don't remember the name, when you ask for a sabbatical or something like that at the company. And I said, well, I would like to study, but maybe I come back. And they say, well, you could live for a year, but then you need to come here. And I said, but do I want to come here? I can always find a job if it's not enough. So I just, when I actually got the opportunity, because it took years since I got that, I really made the decision to move in until I got the opportunity. It was not fast because,
Araceli, can I just quickly ask, was that decision planted in your mind after reading that book when you were from the flight from Mexico and so on? Did that have an absolute immediate profound effect? And also, just to add to that quickly, if it did, do you think it was triggering something that was latent, that was already there for you? Or do you think that that had such a profound new effect on you that it made you change your outlook?
No, that conversation that I mentioned before with the boss about what I wanted, it was clear that I wanted a change, but I didn't know how to, maybe how to bring it to the surface, and that book did that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. So where are we at now? We've jumped.
So after a lot of trying, applying for positions, a lot of rejection, that might be another story. I got the chance to move to study quantum physics, and I ended up in Glasgow, which is not sunnier than Germany.
So was that about 7-8 years ago then that you ended up there, or was that prior?
2015 when I moved to Glasgow.
Okay. Yeah.
Crazy.
And how long, I mean, just to give us an idea of what that looked like in terms of the course or what you were doing in terms of time, and was that a full time? And also, how were you supporting yourself? Was it from historical earnings and so on?
Good question.
Would be really nice. Yeah.
So again, obviously, I had been working in the industry for several years. I had some savings. It's not like I was going with nothing, but I was also lucky enough that my supervisor in Glasgow offered me a 1-year master position, earning having a small stipend like PhD student that I could survive. So all that was really perfect situation. So I quit my job. I moved for 1-year contract to Glasgow. And at the end of, not at the end, but towards the middle of that master, my supervisor came to me and said, "Are you still interested in doing a PhD in that?" And I say, "Of course." I said, "Okay, I can hire you for a PhD after you finish the master's."
Right. Oh, that was I would say it's lucky, but I'm getting now the feeling that people are lucky to have you there. So it wasn't necessarily lucky for you. It sounds like it was lucky for them. And then at that point, how long does that take you all the way through to 2022? Or is there then work that follows from that that's beyond academia? What's the timeline like?
So in 2015 I moved to Glasgow, 1-year master's, and then I started the PhD. I finished my PhD in beginning of 2020, just 1 week before the first lockdown.
And at that point, did you immediately have something else to go into? Were you thinking about setting up a new business? What was during that time? Obviously you're learning a lot, but also there must be parts, or I'm guessing there's parts of you that are thinking about, how am I going to take this forward? How might this become a career? All of those things. Was that sort of coalescing in your mind towards 2019, 2020, or again, did just situations mean that you ended up doing something that in the end happened to work out for you?
So as you probably know by now, it's not good enough for me to do just one thing at a time. So in my free time, because when I moved, I had the feeling that I needed to catch up with everything. Most of the people, they were younger than me, obviously, like 10 years younger. There were people who were just coming out of physics, and I had a completely different career path. So I had I need to catch up. I need to learn more physics. I loved outreach. And I got involved in everything. I was involved in going to science festivals to do outreach events, students associations to do different activities. There was a conference to organize. I was there. I love to present my research. So I was going to conferences to present my research. But at the same time, and now is really the topic of what I'm doing now, my research was quantum simulation. That is fundamental. But in all the circle where I was moving in terms of the research, I was consciously hearing more and more about a new business ecosystem that it was based on quantum. And I wanted to understand more because I was coming from business. And all that, I just wanted to be involved in that new ecosystem. But at the same time, I wanted to understand if it was working, because then I was, from the academic side, I was looking at how academics are going to build a business if they never work in the industry. That was really the first thought.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I went to the launch of the quantum ecosystem in Europe. I was really involved in the things in the UK. I went even to the US. My supervisor, again, was really supportive. When I was asking, can I go to this event to present my science? There was always the link to my research. But then I was going to the event and I was talking to the people there. I was talking to industry exhibitors. And I was like, what is missing here? And putting all that together, I was like, I would like to do that about providing the solution to all these problems that I hear over and over. But I'm just PhD student. I'm going to finish my PhD, but I don't want to be an academic. I don't want to go back to industry. I want to give a solution for this, but I had no idea how to do that.
You wanted to be the bridge, right?
Exactly. But I had no idea how to do it. I was in the middle, really. And I remember a conference, and that was really, really, really cool, because I remember that it was at the airport after one event, and there was an academic on one side, there was a person from a big company on the other. They were talking to each other. It was a completely different language. And I was in the middle, and I'm like, wow, I understand both.
Yeah.
This is really powerful. But still, I'm like, what can I do? So now I'm going to tell you what happened. Again.
Now, are you going to tell us what happened? Because just to let you know, we're at about 3 minutes before it's the end. We get cut off.
Okay. So we keep it for next time.
Do we use this as a cliffhanger? I'm just thinking that it might be a beautiful place to say we wrap it up now, because we've got quite a nice feeling for where you're coming from, what you were doing, and so on. And it's reached a really nice natural point that we can say that is the whole next phase. And then we could do a whole another recording on that. How do you feel about that?
Sounds good.
Brilliant. All right. I thought that was excellent. Tons of energy and passion. There are bits I'd like to revisit, but we can just touch on them in the next one. But I think you can pretty much let rip and take us to places we don't know where we're going now, so it's fantastic.
You like it? Good.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, and really like your warmth and everything. So thank you for joining us. I'm sorry that we're limited on time this time, but we'll rearrange and hopefully see you soon.
No problem. I like sometimes it's good to revisit all these things and all these questions. People normally ask me the same questions over and over. So I appreciate that you touch upon some things that I don't think so much about anymore.
That's really kind of you. Yeah, and we found them fascinating. We hope the audience will. Okay, but for now, thank you very much, Araceli.
Thanks to both of you, and see you next time pretty soon. Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, have a lovely weekend.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.